message. Okay, I think I should start. Good morning, everyone. Can you see me? Yeah, just say good morning, everyone. I feel nice if I get at least two or three good mornings, and then we could start. Smile, everyone. Where are the juniors? Yashaswini, where are you? And all your team. Where is Pavan, Malikarjun, Uttam, Mahesh, Kumar, Prashant, Malikarjun, and Shweta? Where are you all? Good morning, Yama. Good morning, yeah. Can I start? Okay. Oh, this is the problem. Thank you, Fawad. This is the problem when we started. At least you can log on from your homes, no man. Who's asking you to take an auto or a cab to class and get dressed? Yeah, nobody can see you. You could at least do that, right? Hold on a second. Okay. Oh, I hope you all are exercising, sitting at home. Yeah. Good morning, class. See, I'm talking about the COVID 19 footprint on international business. What is, as I told you, you already know what is international business. For those of your juniors who are online, I would like to say, who are going to see my video, I'd like to say, international business is simply the transfer of goods and services between countries in exchange for money. All right, in exchange for money. Now, see, if the global economy has to develop, there has to be global demand and global supply, and that is what happens with international business. Global demand and global, yeah, Ali Fardeen, good morning. Global demand and global supply is possible only with through international business. Global supply and global demand means a global economy. So that is why international business is important. Now, currently, to understand today's situation, what we have to do is we have to understand the virtuous cycle of consumption. Virtuous cycle of consumption. What do you mean by this? See, imagine I'm an employee of a bank and the bank gives me my salary. I take that money and I go to the local grocer and I buy rice for the family. So, what the grocer does is he goes to the wholesaler and gives us money. The wholesaler will give to another fellow, and finally, it will reach whenever it will reach the farmer. So, when the farmer realizes that what he's selling is good and it is in demand, he decides, I have more land. This is just an example, and I'm going to buy more seed to grow the same rice in more land, and I want to expand. Why? Because someone like me, many of us like me, have bought the rice. This is basic consumption. So, what happens to the farmer? The farmer goes to the seed corporation and he says, please give me a loan for more seed, or give me more seed at a subsidized price, something like this. Not only one farmer, like that, many farmers go and to the seed corporation. Good morning, Gaurav. Many farmers go to the seed corporation. So the seed corporation, let us imagine, belongs to the government. Okay, the seed corporation belongs to the government. So what the seed corporation does, it goes to the government and says, please give me additional money for this seed that I require. I need to buy this. I need to support the farmers, etc., etc. So the government says like this, like seed corporation, many corporations have come to it thanks to the basic consumption, and the government requires money to run the projects. So what happens is, guys, last time I was very soft, you said. If you feel I'm getting softer, I mean my voice, please let me know. Bahar, good morning, sweetheart. Okay. So what happens is, the seed corporation has gone to the government. Many such corporations have gone to the government. The government wants money to fund its projects. Okay, the projects of seed corporation and etc. So it says it issues some securities. When the securities are issued, a merchant bank takes up the underwrites the whole thing. Let us imagine. So the merchant banks comes to the bank, approaches the bank where I work, and the higher ups decide that government securities which the merchant bank has underwritten are very good. They will give me, like, give the bank more, interest. So my bank invests in the securities. Okay. So what happens is, when my bank invests there, they get a good sum of interest. Excuse me. They take that interest, and with that interest they pay my salary, apart from other incomes, of course. But this is only an example. So when I get my salary, I go again and I buy the rice. So this is the virtuous cycle of consumption. All right. So please understand that if there is no consumption, there is no purchase, there is no supply, there is no demand, and therefore no supply, etc. Now, what is the aftermath of COVID? Banking and financial sectors are working, but they're working low key. No real investments are there. In real estate is not being bought. Stocks are not being bought. They say there is a shift from buying stocks to equity to debentures. Debentures, derivatives, etc. How far it is true, we have to see. Trends have to tell us. But as I told you, I talked to you about Nick Leeson, and Farhad, good morning, Ahmed. Yeah. Uh, I talked to you about Nick Leeson and the Barings Bank. No one in England, in the Barings Bank, they were senior people. They did not understand what Nick Leeson was doing. Initially, he made money in the derivatives, and when he started losing, they started giving him, literally pumping money to fund his investments into derivatives, which he continuously lost. A 350-year-old Barings, B-A-R-I-N-G, Barings Bank closed thanks to the derivatives issue by Nick Leeson. So when you talk like this, how in normal times only, unless you are well educated and you have certain parametrics and formulae to understand how derivatives, that is forwards and futures, work, you do not foray into this sector. So in the aftermath of COVID-19, would you foray into this sector? Is something we have to think. Now look at the other one, the other situation. No private vehicles, no consumption. No fuel consumption. No public transport, no fuel consumption. No tourism, again no flights, no fuel consumption. And also hospitality sector has fallen. There's nobody to in the hospitals, hotels, and nobody. I hope nobody in hospitals also. That is something we cannot control, or COVID-19 doesn't dictate all part of it. That brings us to the importance. I said so much of this thing, no fuel consumption. That brings us to the importance of fuel, or the main source, crude oil in the world. Now listen to this. I know I have taught you about crude oil. This is a little repetition, but you have to listen. If any of you have not understood, you can listen now and understand. Oil is the most important commodity in the world. Its price can tell us what's really going on in the world economy right now. Why? I told you, fuel is the biggest consumption product which is consumed in the world. uh, Oil price can tell you what's going on in the world economy right now, but it has a great influence on what could happen in the future. Right now, it is telling us that the world economy is in big trouble. A crisis not yet revealed in some, development, growth figures. They haven't even discussed. Like any other commodity, price is driven by supply and demand. Demand for oil is a very good proxy for economic activity. See, when there is no demand for oil, it means that there is no good economic activity. And right now, all the talk is of demand destruction. There is a talk of demand destruction. As you know, even in India, even in our country, there is no public transport is not yet plying on the roads. Planes are grounded, cities are emptied of cars, and factories have been mothballed. There was a worldwide shock 2 weeks ago at the freakish reading of a price of minus $40 for a barrel of US oil. I've explained to you in my previous video how this happened, but I would like to say just as sky high oil prices can trigger recessions, low oil prices can aid recoveries. A massive fall in the oil price is like a global tax cut on businesses, big and small. All right, it's like a global tax cut. Now, the functioning of oil markets. The major markets are in London, where you look at crude, bent crude. New York, where you have West Texas Intermediate, that is the market for measuring the crude oil. It's a benchmark for American oil, and you have Singapore, oil market. You have Dubai, etc. Now, as I told you before, crude oil is found in several ranges and qualities. It is not only found on the ground, it is also found in the sea. You have rigs set up in the sea, deep sea oil rigging is there. So this crude oil, it is sweet and sour crude. How it is classified is the specific gravity of the oil and the content of sulfur in the oil. Okay, if the sulfur is less than 0.05%, the oil is considered to be sweet, otherwise it is supposed to be sour. Sweet oil is easier to process, and cheaper to the process is cheaper because it's easier, it is cheaper. So sweet oil is more expensive than sour oil. So how do you make the benchmarks? Suppose India finds oil, we have to compare the quality of the oil with the Dubai crude. Suppose Indian oil, the oil that we found in India, is sweeter than Dubai crude. Then what happens is you get you can get you can demand a higher price for Indian oil. Suppose the oil that we got in India is not as sweet as Dubai. Accordingly, it will be charged at a lower rate. This is what happens with the oil prices. Now, Brent, I told you Brent from the North Sea in UK, Dubai crude, Brent, a lot of people take it as a benchmark. Dubai crude is taken by the Gulf countries, and the United States it is WTI, West Texas Intermediate. Now, let us take one example of Brent crude. Brent crude has continued to collapse, hitting this is 10 days ago, it hit a 20-year low. The first time in 20 years, the barrel price has come to $16. But if you see the same time last year, the barrel price was $70. Please remember, it is comfortable to have the barrel price for everybody. It is rather comfortable. Yashaswini, good morning, sweetheart. It is rather comfortable for everyone to have, yeah, Yashaswini, thank you for the smile. For everyone, it is comfortable to have the barrel price between $40 and $60. All right. So last year it was 70. Now I have told you about OPEC. OPEC, there were seven sisters. They say seven sisters. These seven sisters were Anglo-American oil companies. They were ruling the world because they had the technical know-how of, they had the technical know-how of drilling, and they had the infrastructure. They could do it. So these seven sisters were drilling oil in the Gulf, and they used to take home 60% of the revenue. So in 1960, Harvard educated Arabs. Of course, the Arabs who got the money had educated the Arabs, educated their sons in foreign countries, and Harvard educated Arabs decided they had enough and they started the OPEC, Organization of Petrol Exporting Countries. They started it in September 1960 in Baghdad. The five countries were Kuwait, Iran, Iraq, Venezuela, and the kingpin Saudi Arabia. Alright, so today we have a basket of oils from OPEC. OPEC has 11 countries. Some countries have jumped in, joined OPEC, left OPEC, etc. Currently, OPEC is working with 11 countries. So OPEC has a basket of oils. You have the basket of oils like Iran's Iran Heavy, Iraq's Basra Light, Indonesia's Minas, Algeria's Saharan Blend, Nigeria's Bonny Light, Libya's S cider, Qatar's, etc., and Venezuela's BCF 17. Like this, the oil goes on. Now, what is the objective of having OPEC? OPEC, as you know, is basically a commodity cartel. So, a commodity cartel supply control is made to control the prices. Of course, it controls the prices, but how does it control the price? It controls the prices by controlling the supply. How do you control the supply? You decide how much you give your member nations a quota to supply and sell. Why does OPEC require to control the supply? See, suppose country A, suppose the supply is unlimited, the price will fall. You know that when the supply is lesser, price is controlled. So demand is always steady, isn't it? And demand is rising for oil. So what happens is when the supply is more, the prices will fall. Many countries can afford the oil, and say country A takes the oil, it uses it as energy because basic source of energy it is, and after using it as energy, it does industrialization. Thanks to its industrialization, it has money for the technical know-how, etc. So when it has money, what it does is it goes on and starts drilling and looking for oil in its own country. When it finds the oil, more than one country find the oil, the strength of OPEC falls. Now, this is what, though the OPEC supply was controlled, Russia is a big supplier of oil today. So Russia has found oil. Smaller countries like Mexico has found oil. There are countries who have found oil. So OPEC Plus and other friendly nations like Russia is what is happening. So let us go on and see. Um, Recently, what has OPEC done? See, as I told you, when there is no demand, when there is no consumption, there is no supply doesn't get exhausted. All over the world, there are if you see there was a map someone showed me that there are red dots all over the world. What are these red dots? These red dots are full tankers, oil tankers filled with oil unable to offload the oil. Why? Because wherever, if you see USA especially, all the tanks, all the storage facilities still have oil which has not been consumed. So if I tell you you have a big sump, you give them place, and yeah, they're going to pay you for storing the oil if you have a really large sump. Just joking. Maybe you can store it in your water tank in the house. We have no 11,000 liters in our. So something like this. Now OPEC Plus had said in a statement that 8 million barrels per day it is going to cut, and maybe around 6 million barrels it will cut per day till it becomes till 2022 it is supposed to cut. Now what happened is there were meetings, G20 leaders also met, OPEC also had meetings through online meetings, etc. Now they have requested each other to cut the oil. There is a standoff between Russia and the OPEC kingpin Saudi Arabia, such that because they've not cut the supply, vying with each other, and the price is falling. So there is some nitty-gritty there, which we cannot have to explain to you in detail. But this class is meant for something else, so we'll not go into that in detail. When I to come on in the next class, if you wish, I can explain. Now, Mexico's, for example, Mexico, see now, look at Mexico. Uh, I have told you there are agrarian economies which sell only agricultural products, and these are their resources. They're not very well off. So Mexico, I could say literally, is a agrarian economy. I was joking to you saying that agrarian economies are called as banana republics. They literally sell bananas. Banana republic doesn't become by saying हमें ये बनाना है वो बनाना है कैसे बनाना है. No. Banana economies are literally selling bananas, and they are agrarian economies. Now Mexico, for example, requires to sell the oil for its economic resources, for its economy to function well. So what happens is, it's like a machine. You need oil to run the machine, no? So like that, to run the machine of Mexican economy, for example, you need oil. So they have said OPEC has requested Mexico to cut the oil by 4 lakh barrels per day. The Mexican Minister, Secretary of Energy says, I can't cut 4 lakh barrels per day, excuse me. I can cut only 1 lakh barrels per day. OPEC has urged major producers, including the US, to sign up to further cuts in an effort to help the industry cope with the non consumption and the less of demand made by the coronavirus. Now, I was talking to you how oil becomes less. Oil price becomes less. How does it become less? How does it become minus $40 a barrel? In small this thing I'll explain to you, though I've explained to you before. It becomes necessary to explain to you very minimally. Now, what happens is industries and mainly airline companies know that they need oil. Definitely they need oil. So if they are comfortable with today's price and they forecast the demand for the next 3 months, then after the 3 months they want to know how much they want to buy the oil at today's price, because today's price it looks very comfortable maybe for them. Or they decide and say I want to buy oil at after 3 months at this price. Now there are two things there are forwards and futures. In forwards, between A and B, the deal is made and the oil comes to B. But in futures, what happens? The company who makes the deal um, puts it on the market, and this contract is dealt with. So the person holding the contract at the last is supposed to take the oil, take delivery of the oil. In between, whoever is there, they may not even see the barrel baby, oil barrel baby. So this is the way. That's why now suppose you book your ticket for 3 months later, then the airlines can certainly tell you this is the money you have to pay if you are booking a ticket from Bangalore to Mumbai, say. Now, how does it possible? Because they know that this is the consumption. So much of fuel will be consumed in a flight from Bangalore to Mumbai. There will be 200 people on an aircraft. Imagine there will be 200 people on an aircraft, and so much fuel will be consumed. And what is the price of this fuel? Today's price they are paying. They know that they're paying so much per however airplane fuel comes. It doesn't come in crude oil. The filtration and all is done, and it comes airplane fuel. So they know that the fuel I'm getting 3 months later costs so much. So much fuel is required for one plane to go from Bengaluru to Mumbai. There will be 200 people on the tank. Then there will be other costs like maintenance of the aircraft, salaries, official, administrative expenses, etc. So they know totally what is the expense of a flight that goes 3 months hence. So accordingly, they divide it and they give you the ticket cheaper than what you're buying within 1 week. All right. So this is how airlines move. So what has happened is there is no demand. So no demand but plenty of supply. So in futures, what has happened? The oil price has come to minus 40 degree, for not degree, minus 40 dollars per barrel. It came to $3, it came to $1, and it won this thing. Okay, now currently, okay, now oil companies are one of the greatest cash spewing machines in the world, and there are in America, if you see, they also pay a lot of tax into public coffers. So when the oil companies don't function, the economies of countries are not getting as much money, as much tax as before. So this is the repercussion on economies. If you look at the other side of it, other side, it's like this. There are ex-employees, superannuated. Many of their pensions are dependent on this oil companies' resources, revenues. So the what will happen to them? Government, it may require hand holding from the government for this purpose, also for pensioners. Okay, hundreds of pensioners, especially in the US, if you see, the oil companies are the companies who employed a huge number of people. Now we'll come to WTO. WTO has said there's going to be a decline of of world trade between 13 and 32%. 13% is very optimistic. If you see in a continuum, 13 and 32%. The 13% is very optimistic. The 32% is very pessimistic. So between 13 and 32, somewhere in between the continuum, you will see the projection of world trade fall. 13% is not small. 32% is not to be imagined at all. So what is going to happen? Now the people are comparing what is happening now with what happened during the Great Depression. All right, and 2008, 2009 recession. To refresh your memory, the 2008 and 2009 recession was because of subprime lending. And the subprime lending, I told you what is prime lending and subprime lending. Subprime lending was offered as packaged offers. You know, for example, Mr. A doesn't have a good job. He wants to buy a house. They say buy a house. EMI you start paying after 2 years, because in 2 years you'll definitely have a better job, you'll be able to pay. So Mr. A buys the house. In 2 years, he with the interest of the 2 years past, he has to start paying, and then he still doesn't have a job. So the houses are repossessed. As I told you, if I show you my a glass, okay, a glass, and say anyone wants to buy, someone will say 10 rupees, 20 rupees, 30 rupees. So the highest 30 rupees is the price of this glass. On the contrary, if no one wants to buy this glass, then the price of it is zero, because there's no demand. So these things happened in repossessed homes in the US. Homes were repossessed, there was no one to buy. Secondly, okay, short selling of shares. It's called in India. It's called Undla Badla. What do you mean? You buy shares, uh, paying a margin of the price. When it comes to paying the full price, you don't have money. So these are the things that came about and caused the Recession. The Great Depression, I already told you. America started making food for European countries who were not who were suffered, who not made food during the World War One. What happened is anybody with any kind of manufacturing capacities was told to make arms and ammunitions and say fighter planes, etc., that were to be used for war. So there was no commercial activity, there was no agricultural activity. So people looked at America, since America was has had become a big brother, because they had suffered least during the First World War. They joined at the last moment, maybe 2 months into the war, and it was all over. So I don't know the exact amount, but actually less than 6 months, if my memory goes right. So what happened is America started supplying food, but after 1 or 2 years, there was American people said, I can manufacture so much food, so they kept on they can producing food, and European countries 1 or 2 years later started making their own food, and there was no demand for this food, and then people in America were the stock market, so many people were investing, and it became a bubble economy. when the stock prices were not higher also, mischievously the stock prices were taken up, and one fine day, 600 the stock market crashed. They say between 1924 and 1929, the stock market rose by 300 points. Today, 300 points, that's all you may say. But in 1924 to 1929, 300 points rising is a very big thing. And now what happened is, see class, what I'll do is, when it is 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock, I will stop. At around 10:05, I'll stop. Let ma'am take the class. I will continue the same class in on next when I come Thursday. Because see, I have lots to say. If I hurry up and finish, I don't think we are doing justice to the class. So on Thursday, I will come and I'll explain again. So let's come to what happened in the Great Depression. The first thing is there was overproduction of food, where and there was supply, there was no demand. People, there was food, but there was no money to buy the food, and there was no demand also. Americans had no money, and then what happened is they were trading. So many people were trading, and the trading was like had become a bubble economy. And next thing, what they did is, um, yeah, the gap between the rich and poor widened. See, it was like this. American consumers were buying less, rising prices, stagnant by purchases, and once again overbuying on credit. See, class, I wanted to tell you one thing. Some 2 years ago, I happened to read article which said that an Indian couple settled in America had committed suicide. So interestingly, I found that the husband, I believe, had 38 credit cards. The wife had 21 credit cards. One credit card is a very big headache, paying that money which you really can't afford, but you're saying, oh, credit card will give me, and at the end of the month, paying that money is a really big headache. Imagine the stress of 38 plus 21 credit cards on that couple. It's easy, they'll say, it is like this. I met a professor from US, he's an Indian, and we were into conversation. In conversation, he says, "Ma'am, America is tired. Why?" So this is his opinion. He's a prof in the US, and he was stayed there for when I met him more than 18 years, and this is about 10, 15 years ago. He said, for example, it's a cycle like this. Say a man gets married, and then he decides, his wife and he decide they need more, like they may need a bigger car, and the bigger car is bought, disposing of the old one. So when the EMIs, it is all given on credit. He may buy a house, whatever is necessary, and they're settled, and they realize that the man's salary is insufficient to pay whatever they have borrowed. So what happens is the wife says, "I will work." So when the wife works, she requires certain amenities. She may require a bigger washing machine, and she definitely requires a car, and something like this. Okay, so the more things are bought because the wife is working, and suddenly they realize that the EMI, they cannot afford to pay installments on all they bought with both their salaries. So the husband says, "I'll take a second job." When the husband takes a second job, there will be babysitting expenses and all these expenses. So the wife also takes a second job. So he says it's not a credit. Consumption based on credit is not a happy situation. It lands you in an unhappy situation of where you have to work more than necessary. You become a tired country. You become a tired family. Families and families of tired people. So buying on credit is not at all a good thing. Okay, now I have told you this. Let's go on next one. In America, the gap between the rich and poor widened. All right, the wealthiest 1% saw their income rise by 75%. The wealthiest had more income. The rest of the population saw an increase of income of only 9%. More than 70% of American families earn less than $2,500 per year. And in 1921, many Americans had invested in the stock market. Now the slide I know which one, so I will continue on Thursday. I came on 15 minutes late, and still many of you were not there. I don't want. I have done lot of work, lot of research goes into what I this thing. I have to acknowledge India Today, The Week, Business Standard, Deccan Herald, um, the Hindu, Indian Express, that is Indian, this thing I follow, and then Al Jazeera, BBC, CNN, and then there were one or two websites. All this thing I follow very much, and that is why I know what I know. So these are all thanks to those websites and those magazines which come online. So with that, I will stop here because I want to do a good analysis, and I want to get support from you. I want to get comments from you. I know Fawad, I'm sorry, I started at 9 o'clock. I know y'all are fasting and it becomes difficult to wake up. That is why FB video, which you can see later, I get a lot of views, I know. But still, what I'm saying is, it's nice to have a few of you smiling, like here, Ashwini's and Gaurav's and Fawad smile. Yeah, and, saying, yeah, it'll be nice if you follow and give me some comments. All right. So next I'll come back on Thursday and I'll do the rest. It's something in on the webinar day I went through very fast because it was a 1 hour lecture. So I asked for whether there are criticisms, and the criticisms were you should have spoken more. And the time was given as 40-45 minutes. I went on to an hour. You know me, teachers exceed, but there we are. Okay, class, I'll see you. Bye. It's a short class today, I know. I think finance ma'am wants to come. Thank you, everyone. God bless you for watching. Be safe, be happy. Whatever happens, keep a smile on your face. Remember, ma'am said it. Smile once again. Bye bye. God bless you. Uh, Stay healthy, stay at home as much as possible. Don't venture out. And when you do your shopping, no, you plan your purchases. Don't say you went to the vegetable shop, bought everything, but forgot the green chilies, but forgot the tomatoes. No, write your list and go. So that you need, whatever you do, you go, okay, grocer, next vegetable, next fruits, back. So whatever you have in one trip, you finish it. You don't go again and again. Make a list of your groceries and use them. Okay? Make a list of everything. We have taught you how to plan. It is important, and I told you the importance of planning. Now, in these times, more than ever, you understand the meaning of planning and the importance of planning. So please plan your purchases. Plan, don't go more than necessary. There are many things that can be stored. If you do not have a fridge, that can be stored. Alright, there are grams to be eaten that can be stored when fresh vegetables are not available. You can add the fresh tomatoes and onions and all that, and this thing. Keep the coriander, if you do not have a fridge, keep the coriander in a glass of water. It survives. Alright, please do some simple tricks like this. There are hundreds of tricks on the YouTube. You're always glued. One more thing, don't be glued to the TV or the laptop or your phones a lot. Remember to keep your phones aside. Even when you talk, keep the phones away from your face. Keep it on speaker and talk, or put those, hanging. You look like Martian. Never mind, use those. It keeps your ears and brain and all safer. All right. Take care. God bless. Keep smiling. Bye. I think it is coming on to 10:05. Okay. Bye, class. I'll end the video. Jai Hind. Jai Karnataka.